so you're going to talk to me?
Okay. Yes, okay. Could you give you a specific statement?
Talk to you?
Yeah. No,
Alex!
yeah. Yeah. Have it? Okay, so talk to me here. Okay, that looks good. Yeah, I'll be on this.
We're not here anything. Is it on this side?
No, this is fine. I'll be on that. Here. Okay. Say when. This looks good. Okay, good. Okay, so let's start with how you came about writing a horror film.
I don't have the sound on. I'm like, okay.
Okay. Testing. Testing. You ready? Oh, okay. Well, I've always loved horror, so I think it was a natural journey for me to venture into the genre of horror. I respect all genres. I think each genre brings something to the audience. Horror, to me, especially this teen horror, I actually came upon by accident. I was pitching teen horror projects that could be made on a low budget to MTV Films, and one of the directors of development there loves carnivals, and he asked if I could come up with something that had a carnival in it. And that's when I came up with the premise for One by One. And specifically, it was meant to be a story that could be told on a lower budget. And it didn't end up, getting picked up over there at MTV. There were some things that, changing in the ranks when Brad Gray took over and so forth. And this was way back in 2004, I think. And so I sat on the project for all this time because I recognized that this could be a project that perhaps I could actually produce and direct. And it's interesting because it was on the back burner for such a long time. And then when I met with Mark Erickson, we were actually talking about another project. And when I told him the premise of One by One, he thought it was delightful. He has a teenage daughter and a son who just turned 13, so he thought that might be a fun project to do. And we decided that we would go ahead and do this project together. One thing I like about horror is that even though I don't think everybody wants to admit it, most people have this inner need to be horrified by something. And whether it's something more in the vein of Jaws, which is, of course, anybody that lives near the water or swam in the ocean can relate to that. And that might be more universally appealing, let's say, to the generation of surfers and seagoers and things like that. So that's one kind of horror film. Then you have the teen horror film, which I think it's a subgenre of horror. And the fact that these characters are more complex, I think, makes it very attractive to even some of the older, it is a teen horror film, but I think that even some of the older segments of the market will enjoy it. There's one big reason for that, and that is because we have probably the largest character on set, and that is the carnival. So the carnivals themselves at night that have nobody around, I think are inherently creepy. And so if you place these kids in this position, it makes a situation for a very creepy and scary story. So that's why I came to do this one.
I'm fine. I just want a little more.
Okay.
Well, that's the reason why I'm moving it up. So that's a little higher. So.
Okay.
Yeah. It's fine. It's just.
Yeah.
Can't wait to edit it.
Think so?
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. There was something else I wanted to add. Are we still rolling? And that is that this particular horror project is one of my favorites because I love all the twists, and it's not extremely gory. It has some gore in it, but it really relies on a lot of the old-fashioned horror, I would say, gimmicks that we use, such as cheap surprise, the camera angles, and the premise itself, which is very scary. But I have to say that if you were to look at like all the projects that I have pitches for and stuff like that, it's probably 75% horror, and that's because there's so many ways to explore people's fears and things like that, and I find that fascinating. So.
Really interesting. Let's talk about the characters. Let's stay on the subject of the film. Talk about the characters. One of the things that all of the actors have said, especially the younger actors, the ensemble cast, that their characters are rich. They're not like just two-dimensional. Like they really got into their characters. They're not just, they are in a way stereotypical because it's like, Harold was saying, I'm like the typical fat kid who's scared. You know what I mean? But there's much more to it. Like they're saying, it combines elements of classic. You know what I mean? And at the same time, it's unique. So talk about how the characters that you've written contribute to the uniqueness of it, and the fact that they're not just two-dimensional.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about this project is that one thing is, first you have to know how to build dimensions, and that's something that I'm very good at, and I've actually articulated how you build a dimension in a character. And so when I look at each one of these characters, I didn't just decide I need 10 characters, and so we're going to have, so many girls and so many boys, and we're going to have like the bratty one, and it wasn't like that. Everyone has started out with I hate to say it, but a label. So for instance, you have Sean, who is the peacemaker. Now, being the peacemaker, that brings element into his personality that I always try to explore in his character throughout the film. And it brings more depth to his character. You have Maya, the deaf girl in the film, who is the courageous one, and because she's courageous, I like to provide opportunities through other characters because they have to bring that aspect out in her to show that she is courageous, and in through the end she must be courageous. You also have what would be a very stereotypical